Yes guys, welcome back to the video. So I've got a video for you today, some leaked footage of the arrest of Virginia McCulloch, where she hid her parents for 4 years. So I'm not going to say much more, and yeah, I'm going to let you watch the video and let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I will see you all at the end.
It's fine. No one in here at the moment. Hold on. The police. Got it. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. Show your chance. You here?
Jenny?
Yep.
Jenny?
Yeah.
Oh. The time is 12:12. You're under arrest on suspicion of murder against Jonathan McCulloch and Elias McCulloch.
Yep,
Okay?
okay.
Do you have to say anything, but it may harm defence. Do not
I just
mention
take my cuff out?
when questioned, so such want anything to do so with the evidence. Okay? Alright, your arrest is necessary for a prompt and effective.
Is there anything in the pocket we should know about?
Yes, there
Where?
is. Can I take you to it?
No, you can tell me.
Can we go in there for a second, just so I can tell you something about what's in there?
Yeah.
Thank you. And then,
Want to tell us
the only
something?
reason I said I need to tell you something about what's upstairs on the top floor as well.
It's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mind your feet. It's obviously
Honestly, I'm not at home.
No, it's fine.
I know, but obviously I've got to be careful. My dad's body's in there.
Right, okay.
Yep, okay. Obviously I'll
Where about
say,
your mum?
a little bit more complicated.
Okay.
That's why I said, can I go upstairs and show
Right,
you?
can you
If
explain
wanna
it to us,
bring
please? Because
officers
we're trying to preserve this. It's now going to be seen, so we need to preserve this the best we can. So I don't want you to have you walking up there, all right? Because that's for your well-being as well as ours.
Oh, no, up.
Okay. So what?
Thank you.
Where will we
Grab
find
some
your
hairband
mum?
as well, if possible.
Where will we find your mum?
Okay, so upstairs there are about 5 wardrobes.
Yep.
It's behind the bed at the back next to the sink. That's the second one. I slipped a pile of those into his drink. There were about 2 or 3 drinks that I brought downstairs. And yeah, they were basically, he didn't drink all of them. He only drank probably about half of 2. But yeah, when I went in the morning, this was before my mother. When I went in the morning, early hours, I got up about half an hour early, about 6 o'clock in the morning. Came in and he was gone. He was gone.
Okay.
It's
It's up to you if you want to talk.
yeah.
The thing is, purpose of your arrest. Purpose of your arrest is for a prompt, effective investigation, as well as by questioning you. We can't do that here. It needs to be done at a police station, all right?
I did know that this would kind of come eventually. It's proper that I serve my punishment. So yeah.
Right, so I've written this, please. I, Virginia McCulloch, have informed Police Constables 77329 Brown and 79387 Bowers after entering my house on Friday the 15th September 2023 that I murdered my father, John McCulloch, who was stated was under a bed in the rear ground floor of the house, and my mother upstairs in a cupboard next to the sink.
Wardrobe. It's a double wardrobe.
Right, okay, I've written
Double
cupboard.
wardrobe. It's like 4 wardrobes, but it's the one nearest the sink. Double wardrobe. Yeah.
What's significant as I've written down there here now, I've just read out to you. Are you happy to sign that, to say that's a true account?
Yeah. Cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy.
I've
I know, I
woken
don't
up
seem-
today
I
and
don't-
done my job.
Okay.
No.
I know I don't
Not a lot.
percent evil, but we all, yeah,
I'm not going to comment on anything. It's not my job to comment on it, okay? Because I've got to be impartial with everything, okay? So I'm not going to give any comments.
No, well, I mean, I deserve to obviously get whatever's coming sentence-wise, because that's the right thing to do. And that might give me a bit of peace. Also in the handbag as well, there's, and again, because you're probably going to need to know about it, there's a card in there, card one money. And that's a bank card. where there's a lot of transactions that have taken place over the last few years from money that pertains to my parents.
Lois and John McCullough. They're an elderly couple, not super old. We're talking, John was 71 years of age. So we're talking about people who are in their retirement phase. They also had 5 daughters, but 4 of those children, all daughters, they'd moved out a long time ago. But their youngest daughter, Virginia McCullough, she'd literally been living with them rent-free in that home that they lived in Great Baddow near Chelmsford in Essex. But with respect, Virginia McCullough is not there because she genuinely wants to be around her parents, because she has this interdependency idea and she's going to be able to support them and they're going to be able to support her. With Virginia McCullough, it's a one-way street, without a doubt. First of all, she didn't have a job at all. So she was basically reliant on payments from her father. Now, apparently the elderly couple were quiet, and one of the things that was also noted about their neighbours was they were largely reclusive, and so they weren't necessarily active in the community. And of course, we all know what that means. If you're not active in the community, if people don't see you on a regular basis, then when you just don't seem to be anywhere anymore, it doesn't necessarily provoke any reaction because, hey, you weren't actively engaged or involved in that neighbourhood anyway. But one of the things that was noted by neighbours, in spite of the fact that they're often very reclusive and people don't really know them that well, is that occasionally the peace of the neighbourhood in Great Baddow was punctuated essentially by the sound of Virginia McCullough screaming at someone. So people heard this vitriol just coming from the home. Now, they don't know who she was shouting it, but I think we can just garner from the fact that she was living with her parents, so it was likely one of them. And what does that tell us about her personality? If she's not only living at her parents rent-free, if she's not only being bankrolled by her father, who's earned his money and saved for his retirement and is now being drained by her, she's also quite confident in the way that she can act around them, because if she's screaming at the top of her voice to a point where people in the neighbourhood can literally hear her, that demonstrates, yes, one could say an instability, but one could also say an personality. Apparently, in the local area, what people believed was that the family had just become even more secretive. So all of a sudden, these people who are, as I said, massively active in the local area seem to just go off grid. So first of all, relatives are literally asked to stay away. Neighbours who had known them and friends who'd actually been involved with John and Lois had actually been told that they'd now left the whole area. So apparently they'd just upped and gone to the seaside where they decided to relocate. They were told that they'd gone to the Clacton area, which is on Essex's Sunshine Coast. It's a really nice area. Also, friends of the couple, they start getting postcards from Clacton. And like I said, even for people who would regularly see John, so John would go to the White Horse pub, usually on a Friday for a drink, and spend time with a friend. And even though that was a genuine regular occurrence, when he stops turning up and he's told this information that apparently he's left the area, he just didn't have the confidence to call the daughter, in this case, Virginia's bluff, because at the end of the day, she's saying that this has happened. Who is he to question her? It's just odd. Now we get to September 2023, and this is where everything starts to, shall we say, unravel. So Essex County Council safeguarding team, they speak to Essex Police. The reason that they do that is because John and Lois's GP at their registered practice had been an amazing GP, essentially. Because I can tell you now, and this is no disrespect to any doctors out there, but if you are a GP, how'd you get an appointment? Because I'm telling you, my GPs would not know if I did not go for 75 years. They literally wouldn't be aware of whether I was alive or dead unless they happened to be called out when I died. But their GP at their registered practice was really worried. They hadn't seen them for some time. They'd obviously been managing the conditions that John and Lois were enduring. John hadn't come to collect medicine. He hadn't been for scheduled appointments. And during this period of time, when obviously the GP is concerned, is expressing concern as well and trying to get in contact with John Lewis, Virginia McCulloch basically starts to say that there are all these excuses, and she goes ahead and cancels those appointments on her parents' behalf. Now you can imagine immediately when that happens at the very beginning, no one's really going to be that concerned, because at the end of the day, if your daughter calls to cancel an appointment for you, you're busy, the receptionist is going to do so because it happens all the time. And there's literally nothing sinister behind it. And, you know, you have a right to not go to the doctors if you don't want to go to the doctors. But there's a consistency about this. So it's not as if they're getting to speak to John or Lois after their apparent moving to Clapton. They just can't get in contact with them. And understandably, that starts to raise eyebrows in the doctor's practice. So fortunately, because this GP is so diligent and is genuinely thinking this is not making sense, and even if they are not coming to my practice, I am concerned for their welfare because they're making decisions that could suggest, shall we say, that they're on the decline mentally, because maybe they aren't thinking about how important it is to look after their physical health. Maybe something's going on a mental health level that means that they're not taking time to consider what they need on a health level to keep them going. So it could be that they need some kind of investigation on a welfare level because they're not taking care of themselves any longer. However, it results in this missing persons investigation. So the police, understandably, when they're doing a welfare check, they go and speak to Virginia McCulloch, and they do that initially on the phone. So they just call to see whether they can speak to John or Lois, but they don't actually get to speak to either of them, and there is more. They just don't feel like the story that's being told to them is adding up, because it seems as if Virginia McCulloch's parents just never seem to be in the area. And these are not people who are out jogging every morning. They're not out partying at the weekends. They're not involved in a local bridge club. You know, they're reclusive. They've just kind of disappeared from sight. And they've also got these health issues. So to never be present seems very, very strange. Now, Virginia McCulloch says, oh, the reason that you can't speak to my parents is they're travelling. They'll be back in October. So she's trying to delay what will turn out to be the absolute inevitable. Now, like I said, the police are deeply concerned. It doesn't make sense that the McCullochs have just disappeared off grid, that the doctor can't get in contact with them, that apparently they're never, ever around. And the only person that seems to have any contact with them whatsoever is Virginia McCulloch, their daughter. We get to the 15th of September 2023, and what can I say? As you will have seen from the video, things start to get really, really serious. The police raid the McCulloch's home in Pump Hill. They literally smash through the front door, and as you will have noted, that moment is captured on police body-worn footage. There is something quite disconcerting about Virginia McCulloch, because when you look at her, she just looks like a typical human being, doesn't she? She looks a bit like peaches and cream. You're not looking at somebody like her and immediately thinking to yourself, she is a bad human through and through. She just seems quite petite, quite eloquent, and yet the words that she is speaking are breathtakingly evil. Now, she is arrested on suspicion of murder immediately, and she is incredibly forthcoming with the information. She tells the police that the bodies of both of her parents are in the house. Now, she confesses at this point that she was the person who killed them, and she describes how she killed them. So she had done practice runs. Let's be clear about this. She'd initially decided that she was going to kill them, and she wanted to know the kind of measuring that would prove fatal. So to do that, she'd done some practice runs, placing in her father's and mother's drinks, but she hadn't actually killed them on those occasions. But when she succeeds, essentially she poisons her father's drink and feeds that to him, and then he dies. She finds him dead. She deals with the body. Then she has the mother to deal with. But even though she has to mum, her mother hasn't actually drank the entire drink, and so instead she decides to do it a different way. Now, in the body cam footage, you'll see that she's saying, I did know that this day would come eventually. And then for me, there is something that is so highly disrespectful and so chillingly evil and so representative of the personality that we're dealing with. She says, cheer up. at least you've caught the bad guy. Now, she also said to the police at this point they'd find a bank card where lots of transactions would have taken place, and all of those transactions came from her parents. Because, yeah, she wasn't just being paid for by her parents. She wasn't just being allowed to live rent-free in their home. She wasn't able to eat the food that they provided and just be grateful. No. Virginia McCullough wanted more. She wanted their money. This is financially motivated. McCullough was then obviously taken to the police station. She told the police where the kitchen knife was, which she then described was a murder weapon, because whilst her father had indeed been poisoned to death, her mother just wasn't as lucky. And when I say lucky, clearly it's in the context of they got murdered, so there's no luck involved there. But when it comes down to how you experience the murder, well, her father was luckier because he didn't get knifed or hammered to death, where her mum did, which is horrific. In fact, she says to the police, this is grisly to talk about, but there's a hammer hidden in the home under the stairs and it would still have on it. So she hasn't even bothered cleaning up the weapons that were used. She's just in a state of denial to some degree. She's acted this way and then she's compartmentalised it. Now, when it came down to confirming exactly how John McCullough and Lois McCullough had died, he was 70 at the time of his death. He'd been fatally poisoned, and Lois, who was 71, she'd also been poisoned. These were with prescription medications. But then she had not died. She hadn't drank enough of it. So Virginia McCullough battered her with a hammer and stabbed her to death. When they started to look through the property at the documents to figure out, what was the motivation, what was going on where Virginia McCullough was concerned, they start finding that she'd just desperately been trying to keep from her parents an enormous black hole of debt. So Virginia McCullough was spending so much money that she didn't have and wasn't entitled to, and it was just becoming more and more obvious that at some point John and Lois are going to realise she's stealing from them. So she had gone so far with this, by the way. She'd forged letters, because what she's trying to say to her parents is, oh my God, you're being scammed. So she's creating these letters, which is this narrative that is an absolute lie, exploiting her parents' good faith and belief systems by suggesting that they've been scammed out of money, that she is only informing them of what's being discovered because they have clearly been stupid, as far as she'll be saying, and lost money by getting involved in things that they believed were authentic but have actually turned out to be financial cons. Now, unbeknown to John and Lois, she's out there just spending their cash, and she is racking up debt after debt after debt, all in their name. So she's got loads of large credit card debts, and we all know what that means. Over a period of time, you can get away with not paying, but then the bailiffs are going to get called in, people are going to close on those loans, etc. And you have got a whole heap of problems. You're going to get taken to court, you're going to get CCJs, you can't escape from it forever. So she's telling John and Lois they've been subject to fraud, or that they've been banking failures. She even said they've been hacked. She even invented police and corporate investigations, all, of course, with promises of repayment, because you can imagine that for John and Lois, this is terrifying. They're losing money, it's hemorrhaging, and they don't know what to do. But unsurprisingly, every time these repayments are meant to occur, they just get delayed again and again. Also, bear in mind, Virginia McCullough didn't have a job. She was apparently very creative. She was an artist. But she starts lying about actually having employment. So she's now making up that she's got a job. Why is she doing that? Well, I'll tell you why she's doing that. Because her parents have been bankrolling her for a long time. So if she's suddenly flush and she's out there getting new outfits, buying new treats, having new makeup, having her hair done nicely, they're going to be like, where are you getting that money from? So she has to lie that she's got jobs at times, because otherwise there won't be an explanation for her having cash. So £149,697 she stole from her parents, both before, during, and after the murders. And also, she was selling their assets. So between 2019 and 2023 alone, Virginia McCullough spent $21,000 on online gambling. And her siblings, because obviously she's got 4 female siblings as well, one of the things they've said about her was that she was a really socially awkward individual and that she was literally a compulsive liar from day one. Neighbours, even though they're not a family who are really involved on a community level, neighbours said one of the things that really stood out about Virginia McCullough was she was just pathological in her lying, and she did the weirdest things. So she actually entered a shop on an occasion wearing a false pregnancy bump. This is in the summer of 2023. Now, apparently, another thing that Virginia McCullough was highly paranoid. She felt constantly that people were spreading rumours about her. She was at some points convinced that the Ring doorbell at the family home and the Wi-Fi router had been hacked. And some of you from the inside looking in may think, well, maybe that's an evidence of psychosis. This is somebody in mental decline, an individual who is struggling with their environment because they're seeing, hearing, feeling things that aren't actually there. And of course, that could be the case. But I would argue, counter to that, that if you have murdered your parents, you're going to be suspicious. You're going to be paranoid. And the more stressed you are, the more paranoid you begin to feel, then the more likely you are to create these delusions because you got something to hide. You got 2 bodies to hide. So you're worried that people are listening and hearing. And yes, that can certainly exacerbate some psychiatric issues. But it comes down to the root of the cycle that's occurred, the chain of causation, shall we say. She's people. Of course, in the back of her mind, she has the fear. That's why when the police come to her home, she basically is saying that she's kind of glad that it's come to an end because she has been stressed about the fact that she's only got a period of time before it gets found out. And she's been imagining that and perceiving that possibility. And yes, going about these bizarre and absurd behaviours to try to manage and deflect. But ultimately, she's known. So that could absolutely, on a stress level, have led her to become more paranoid and suspicious and even to trip into more of the psychiatric issues that are associated with that. But it comes down to her actions, not to her mental health. Now, at Chelmsford Crown Court, Virginia McCullough admitted the murders. So she pled guilty. She said that the murders took place between the 17th and 20th of June 2019. Of course she did. There was no way she was ever going to get away with it. The judge described to the court how Virginia had basically stolen from her parents, she'd secured loans in their names, that she'd spent their money, that she'd lied to her parents about her employment, that she'd told them that she had all these medical conditions that she didn't have, and therefore there was premeditation, there was coercion. There was a willingness to manipulate people that should have been able to trust her. And ultimately, they paid their price with their lives because of that. Now, throughout the sentencing hearing, McCullough apparently stared at the floor emotionless. And it was apparently only when she listened back to the interview with police on how she described how she murdered a mother that she started to get upset. And on that interview, she's heard saying about her mother, she looked so innocent. She was just sat there listening to the radio. I did go in 3 times to build up some gumption, but I knew I had to get it done and can't hesitate. She was just staring at me in disbelief. I was hitting like someone badly playing the xylophone. Throughout the course of our investigation, we have built a picture of the vast levels of deceit, betrayal and fraud she engaged in. It was shocking on a monumental scale. McCullough lied about almost every aspect of her life, maintaining a charade to deceive everyone close to her and clearly taking advantage of her parents' goodwill. She is an intelligent and adept manipulator who chose to kill her parents callously and without a thought for them or those who continue to suffer as a result of their loss.
Absolute madness, yeah, as you could see. Obviously, there's not much more for me to say because you've watched the video, but yeah, if you did enjoy, please get a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you all in a bit. Peace.